Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Butts, and this is my introductory video. So, first of all, some things you may want to know about us, the Butts family anyways. I was born here in Utah. My father joined the Navy pretty much right after I was born, and I grew up all over the United States and in Japan for a few years. I spent most of my childhood in Chesapeake, Virginia. My family moved to Illinois right before I got my mission call, and the call was to North Carolina, which I thought was unusual because I knew exactly where I was going. Anyways, so after I returned home from my mission service, I actually went out to Rexburg, Idaho to attend BYUI physically for about a year. And on the way back, my car broke down in Salt Lake City. So I called up a friend, asked if I could stay with him while I got my car fixed. And that week, I met the beautiful woman that would become my wife. In the meantime, my wife had just returned from traveling abroad. She had been in Iceland as a professional dog sledder. She has also been to China and to Mexico. I think she's infinitely more interesting than I am, which is part of why I was so intrigued. But anyways, that's a story for another time. Now that we've been married for almost 5 years, what we like to do for fun is camp. Do a lot of outdoorsy stuff. We like to climb, we like to hike. My older daughter loves to fish for some reason. I don't like fishing at all, and my wife has never fished before, so I don't know where she got that from. We also compete in a martial art called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've trained in multiple disciplines. Jiu-Jitsu happens to be my favorite, and I've been doing it for about a year and a half. It is kind of like wrestling, kind of like if you watch MMA and they go to the ground and you see them do the weird stuff where they throw their arms over each other and they try to choke each other out. That's what Jiu-Jitsu is. So a lot of people ask, that's what it is. It's not karate, it's not taekwondo. There's no punching and kicking involved. It's actually a very quiet and gentle martial art. Anyways, so my family's also very musically inclined. Unfortunately, I don't have a video to share with you, and I have several thousand pictures on my computer, and I can't cycle through them fast enough to find all the pictures. But my wife plays the violin, and she plays fantastically. She's been classically trained since she was 3. She plays the erhu, which is a Chinese violin, and she plays the ukulele. And of course, the last one is just for kicks and giggles. In the meantime, I play the guitar. I was classically trained as well, although not for nearly as long as my wife was. I play the Appalachian dulcimer, and to describe that instrument is like a banjo meets a guitar, but even that's not fair. You have to kind of look up videos on YouTube of Appalachian dulcimer. Again, I wish I had a video to share with you, but I don't. And then I also play the Native American flute. Anyways, our other interests are being outside, learning. I love reading new things all the time. I just recently finished a biography on Benjamin Franklin, as well as finished reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy for the first time. So anyways, on to... here are some pictures for you to peruse and review. There's not too much going on. The top left photo is my wife at a women's only open mat for Jiu-Jitsu. The other 3 photos surrounding it are my wife and my 2 daughters. Lucy is the older daughter, she's 3 years old, and Gracie is the younger, she is 6 months old. Top right is a picture of me after my most recent tournament. I took 2nd place. I'm very proud of that. Thank you very much. The guy in 1st place was infinitely better than me anyways, so he deserved it. And the bottom right photo is my wife and my daughter bouldering during a really cold day in the winter. Okay, so here's the more important stuff. The list of my favorite books. Obviously, I expect you can all read. This is an English class. So let me just explain why I like these stories. Ranger's Apprentice is very well written. If you haven't had a chance to read the series, John Flanagan originally started off telling stories to his grandchildren at night when they would go to bed. And eventually he fleshed these stories out enough that he wound up writing them down, and they became known as the Ranger's Apprentice and the Brother Band Chronicles. And the characters are all intertwined. You'll find that throughout the last time I read them, there was 13 books in the Ranger's Apprentice and 6 books in Brother Band. And the characters all meet each other. And it's, for someone who gets involved in the stories, it's a really cool experience when you see the stories from the Brother Band Chronicles influence the stories in the Ranger's Apprentice, and you see this world begin to expand. Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events has a very quirky sense of humor, and it is a hilarious and entertaining read. Go Dog Go is the book I taught myself how to read when I was 2 or 3 years old, and my daughter picked it up 6 months ago and did the exact same thing. And the trick was we memorized the words, and as we learned the letters, we started to recognize where the letters were in this book. And so we taught ourselves how to read with it. And my daughter can currently read small words like Go Dog Go. So it's a great book for teaching children how to read. Brown Bear, Brown Bear. Anything Eric Carle writes, I think, is a great children's book. The Hungry Caterpillar, Brown Bear, and what is it? Will You Get Me the Moon, I think, is the other one, or Something About the Moon, are 3 of my favorites from him. If you look on Netflix, they actually have like a half-hour long video or movie that is a reading of all of Eric Carle's books. The Lord of the Rings, obviously, is a great series. It's not necessarily for children, but it is a good story. The Alex Rider series is kind of like James Bond for kids, and it's really good. It reminds me of Encyclopedia Brown, or what's her name? Detective, or Nancy Drew, the Nancy Drew series. Clive Cussler is an amazing author. Again, not necessarily a children's book, but very good young adult and teenager reads. Especially some of his newer series where he allows other authors to expand on his universe. They're excellently written. Battlefield Earth is by far my favorite novel of all time. I actually wanted to show you, this is my 3rd copy of Battlefield Earth. I've read this book so many times that the covers, the last book I had actually fell into pieces, and I can pull, in fact this one's starting to do it, I can pull the binding apart, and I can read it in segments, and then I can put the segment I've read back, and then grab the next section. And again, this is the 3rd time I've owned this book, and it's happened every single time. It is an amazing story. Unfortunately, it is written by the guy who founded Scientology, basically created its doctrine and precepts. But if you don't let that stop you, it is more than just a science fiction novel. It is a drama. It is an example of political science. It's got everything in it, from economics to technology to dramatic elements, and fantastic read. And as a child, of course, I grew up reading anything that had Star Wars written on the cover. So that's my list. Thank you very much for listening. Here's some samples of cover art, and I look forward to working with you all.